anywhere. You can just stay where you're at. And we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. We have a lot of people here tonight, a lot of interest, and we're so glad to see you all. And we'll get started as soon as Jackson's ready to start filming, I believe. If you have not turned in your appearance sheets and want to speak at some point tonight, there's some in the back by the dish, the sink you can fill out, or there's some out in the lobby. Just fill those out and give them over to Missy and she'll get them to me. Otherwise, I think we're ready to go. Alder Dupula.
All right. So I will call, my name is Patrick. I'm an alder, and we will call the meeting to order. And will you note the roll, Jake?
I got it. Okay.
And there are no appearances for any other subject. So we'll move on to new business. And that's going to be the public what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. We need to approve our minutes. So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion about the minutes? Any changes, corrections? All those in favor? Aye. All right. There's no unfinished business. New business is the public input for use of Winnequa Park tennis and pickleball courts. And like Jake mentioned earlier, we're here to listen to you and your opinions and what you think about this particular subject. And we're asking that the commentary is limited to 3 minutes because there's lots of people here. And we're genuinely interested in hearing your opinions. So with that, we want to read that letter from Doug real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, you want to read that letter?
Yeah. So our chair of the Park and Rec Board, also elected official Alder Doug Wood, is unable to be here tonight. He has a exposure to COVID in his family and did not want to. He was taking all cautions, but
actually, y'all made him very nervous.
Yes,
so.
Thank you. So here's his message that he wanted to be read. Thank you to everyone for their interest in the use of the Winnequa Park tennis pickleball courts. I have reviewed the survey results and the many pages of comments. Along with the rest of the county, state, and nation, we have seen an unprecedented explosion in pickleball play. We probably need to add court space, but that will take time. Unfortunately, I experienced an extended close contact exposure to COVID yesterday. As I write this, I do not have any symptoms. While the CDC guidelines say I do not need to quarantine, I do not want to risk exposing all of you, especially since I expect the room will be crowded and the meeting will last a couple hours. Alder Patrick Dupula will chair that meeting in my absence. The plan is for this meeting to be recorded and for delayed play on the city YouTube channel, so I will be able to watch the meeting. I anticipate that Parks Board will continue to consider the policy options for the use of the courts tentatively at the December meeting. Have a great meeting, Doug Wood. Okay. Well, first of all, I know some of you in this room, but my name is Jake Anderson. I'm the Park and Rec Director for the City of Monona. Along with us tonight, we have our Park and Rec Board Committee. This is a committee that meets monthly and discusses policy, budgets, and anything related to Parks and Rec. So we have Tony Gomez-Phillips, Pat Howell, Alder Dupula you met, Jeff Hins, Rachel Groman, and Jennifer Call. Also in attendance here is our Assistant Director, Missy Miller, and our Recreation Supervisor, Jessica Walsh, who some of you may deal with more so than me. Why are we here? Well, we are here because of pickleball, tennis, and the use of the courts at Winnequa Park. A little history is that the courts at Winnequa Park used to be 3 tennis courts. In 2005, one of the courts was removed to make a skate park. And so from 2005 to present, we've had 2 tennis courts and a skate park that have been lit, primarily for the use of tennis, recreational and instructional tennis. In 2017, the courts were in disrepair. We received capital funding to resurface the courts. That was about a $65,000 project. At that time, we recommended to this body that we install lines for pickleball play, knowing that around the country, the popularity of pickleball had increased, but there wasn't a lot of options at that time locally. So in 2017, we put the lines in. In 2018, we started to offer some pickleball lessons along with our normal tennis lessons. And that continued through 2019 as well. As we all know, COVID took a pause from a lot of our recreational and instructional opportunities that we could offer to the community. In that absence, though, a large amount of people started to be playing pickleball. So we invested in temporary nets. In the first couple of years, it was a checkout process from the pool. And it was a unique situation in the way that we lined the courts. So a 2 tennis court facility around the county. There's no other court configuration like ours that has dual tennis and pickleball. So pretty much every other tennis court that has pickleball lines just has the lines and uses the tennis net. So we wanted to try to have the ability to have more nets, four pickleball nets in a 2 tennis court complex. And so that's what makes this situation unique that we're going to talk about tonight. That we have that ability to kind of host a fourplex pickleball. In 2020, many of you that are probably here tonight started playing at the courts at pickleball. An informal group was participating. That increased in 2021, and probably when we started having more contact with the department on dates that we had the courts reserved for youth tennis lessons or our own pickleball programs. That also had discussions with a representative of this group, Sandy was over there, about some collaboration and donations for improvements to the pickleball pickleball tennis court space. That included the donation and installation of windscreens for the courts. It included some co-purchasing of new mobile-style nets, benches, and then there was some other amenities. A windsock, I think, was added, a clock, and the infamous paddle saddles. So this is kind of led into this year where the group that was participating in the morning increased even more, over 100 people in estimates that we've received via communication. And that has led to some challenges with other people that want to play either drop-in tennis, kids that go to the courts, people that want to play pickleball with their own group of 4, and led to a situation in which we were notified that there was a charge being collected for people that were showing up to play that was used to reimburse a ball fund or provide that. And at that point, we had some interactions with some players, with some of our tennis instructors, and we just started receiving feedback from some of our residents over concerns over the amount of a large group kind of playing in one area at one time. That based on information that we had gotten from Sandy was predominantly non-residents of Monona, so over 50% were not residents of Monona. So that led to some challenges and some concern about equitable access to the courts, whether it be for tennis or pickleball. At that time, I instructed our staff to have a meeting with the organizer and start to look at what we would call a facility use agreement, which we have with other groups that use our athletic facilities for the exclusive use and reservation of those facilities. That would include our Monona Grove Youth Football Program, USTA, which rents tennis courts at Ahuska, etc. In an effort to look at how we can start to equitably look at use of the courts and whether or not fees would be established to help in the maintenance of these courts. From there, obviously, a lot of you received information, and there was a groundswell of emails to this board, to the mayor, and to the city council. So we need to address this through a policy of some sorts, of whether that looks like in the future or whether nothing gets done. So we did send out an electronic survey that was available in the packet tonight that was open for a couple of weeks. I'll just briefly go over that because we want to save as much time for listening. Tonight is about listening to your thoughts about a potential policy or maybe how courts could be shared in a different fashion than they are now to allow for different styles of pickleball play or tennis. So what we're really trying to get in any of our surveys, some demographic data and some key questions. This is available on the website. We had 335 responses, 355, excuse me. 70% were Monona residents. What we're trying to get is how many of our non-residents and where were they coming from. Would the installation of new pickleball courts in some of our neighboring communities, specifically Fitchburg, McFarland, and the addition of courts in Sun Prairie have any difference? And a lot of what we see is Madison, East Madison, or McFarland. Since our initial survey, we had a meeting that we'll discuss at our December meeting with all of our colleagues in Dane County. And basically, we have a supply and demand issue. We have a lot more demand for the use of pickleball, especially courts in Dane County, than we have supply. By the end of 2023, we will have 77 dedicated pickleball courts in the county. Well, I think the last I noticed the group email on the morning group was 140 people. So that would be every court in Dane County could be taken up by the group currently playing in Monona. The big challenge is that the city of Madison only has 6 dedicated pickleball courts on the far west side. And so that is a very big challenge for a very large city. There are a lot of multi-tennis courts that are used for pickleball, but I think as we'll hear tonight that the great value of our location is the ability to have 4 courts going at once and have a rotational play, which allows people to mix in and out frequently. So that was a little bit of our residency demographics. Go through there. Age demographics, most popular age was 40 to 49. We asked about the number of people in your house, just trying to look at are these families, individuals over the age of 65 under these are demographic questions that we ask on every survey. How far are you willing to travel? The most popular response for tennis was 5 miles. For pickleball, it was 5 and 10 miles. So clearly there was a willingness of people responding to the survey that would travel farther to play pickleball than they would be tennis.
Question, Jake, how many people responded to the survey?
355.
355.
And we had just different categories on how you're currently using the Winnequa tennis courts, whether it's for tennis, whether it's for tennis lessons, pickleball lessons, drop-in, league play, rotating, etc. That was pretty mixed. The largest number of respondents were those that are playing pickleball with family or friends, no organized league play. And then the second largest, right in line, was the kind of drop-in league play, rotating in with an existing group. So one of the things we're getting at is, okay, we have an issue with the amount of time that the courts are being used for kind of pickleball only. And while that's great and we're excited about seeing so many people get exercise and meeting friends and a lot of the survey data we got, the flip side is that there are other people who would like to use the courts for potentially tennis that maybe have not the ability to drive to a Huska, for example, 10-year-old kids. The ability for our department to offer instructional programs, lessons of both pickleball and tennis. Uh-oh. Someone slipped in the light
This is
switch
the
there.
dance club portion?
Yes. And so just trying to gauge, are you, there are multiple municipalities in Dane County that have had basically the same type of issues. this is happening regionally and nationally. If you just Google pickleball v. tennis, you'll see lots of articles on the challenges of these two distinct different types of court play, and just the lack of pickleball facilities in general across the nation and the explosive popularity of the sport. And so just trying to get on, if we were to look at a policy, because right now the only thing in our ordinance is no skateboards, no inline skates, and no bikes on the tennis court. So we don't have official policy other than if it's a Monona Park and Rec program, we take priority, or if it would be a school district event, which a school district uses Ahuska, they don't use the Winnequa courts. So courts have used for reservation only, courts reservable for a fee, and first come, first serve for no fee, and then first come, first serve use with a 60-minute play cap. So that's basically trying to, on the sign that's on the court now, it basically says tennis court play only, play changes on the hours. That's left over from 25 years ago, and probably the start of what we've had with challenges previously over the use of tennis courts, that, you know, someone come and play on the hour, you'd have to move off. Those percentages were mainly in favor of first come, first serve with a 60-minute cap, and then no reservations. So we've got some communities in the county where only residents can make a reservation, or they can make a reservation, but it has to be a certain amount of time. We've got some communities that have a membership-based program, which allows for this open style pickleball play that we're seeing on a daily basis. And then we've also have some very heavily program times for different skill levels for pickleball, different ages, etc., in different communities. And then some are very curious about, particular this situation we're having in Monona, as we've got brand new courts going up in other communities that are looking at how they can, either develop a policy or timeframes of when people can play. The priorities, following priorities on court use and reservation policies, that was fairly mixed on, some would like to see public pickleball only play time, some would like to see public tennis only play time scheduled. There wasn't much support for a fee-based reservation system, which is currently $10 a court for 2 hours, and that's the fee that we charge USTA to rent our courts at Ahuska. And then there was the most support was having 2 pickleball nets or 1 tennis court always available for open play. So that would mean if we would have a drop-in or open play, that there would always be 1 court available for people that just wanted to show up and play with their friends and family. And then we got all sorts of responses and letters and great stories of how people have come to be playing at our courts in Monona, and things that they would like or not like to see moving forward. So tonight is really the first step in the potential of developing a policy. Anytime that we have a group that is using a facility or wants to use a facility, we look at all the options that are available, what it means for our residents, what it means for our own programmings that we do at a particular complex, and what could be the most fair and equitable. So tonight is a listening session. No decision will be made tonight. This will be on a future park board agenda. Anytime we have a large turnout, this group here at this table needs some time to digest all the information. Also, staff is listening as well, and we would develop a draft policy that the park board could look at eventually. Because this would probably result in an ordinance change, it will also go to the Monona City Council. So lots of fairly more meetings, but ideally before the spring of 23, we would like to have something resolved on the future of what the courts look like at Winnequa. I would say some of the courts say, are you going to be building dedicated pickleball courts? No, we are not building dedicated pickleball courts anytime soon in Monona. In our last park and open space plan, while we see a lot of what our eyes see is different than what was responded in that survey, it did not rank in a high priority. New court complexes from an 8 to 10 court is in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000. And we have a lot of other priorities in our park system that we need to address on existing facilities. So unless there's a donor that's looking to donate, maybe $250,000, it's not something that will be probably tackling anytime in the next 3 to 5 years. And so we have to kind of make do with what we have here at the Winnequa Park tennis and pickleball courts. Okay, enough of me talking. I'm just going to call your name, and Missy will just raise her hand, and Missy will come bring the mic to you. We just ask to keep it to 3 minutes because we have a big stack here, and we would like to be out of here at 8:30 tonight. Because I'm sure a lot of you had late nights last night too.
Can I ask one quick question? Is there a reason that you don't line the courts at Ahuska?
We will get to that next month, next month meeting.
And then right before we start, I just wanted to, again, thank everybody for being here. Clearly, everyone is passionate about pickleball, and we appreciate that quite a bit, and we're happy to have you. So we're looking forward to the testimonies.
Could I ask just a logistical question?
Sure.
Are there any tennis players here tonight, or in the future, are you going to have a tennis listening session for tennis players?
They're waiting in the parking lot, and they're very angry.
This would be tonight. So tonight is about if you're a tennis player and you have thoughts about the use of the Winnequa courts for tennis,
Yeah.
share them. If you have thoughts about pickleball on the courts at Winnequa, share those too.
Okay.
All right, in no particular order other than I just shuffled them up. Dan Dickens, first off the bat.
Dan.
I registered not to
Oh,
speak.
sorry, you did just register.
I did.
Against what?
Well, first of all, I'm already attached. I'm speaking. I am already a taxpayer and paying fees for the use of the courts. But things need to be handled more equitably than just singling out the pickleball players who happen to come from all over the county to play here. It's a very welcoming group. And contrary to some opinions, everyone has been welcome. We want to continue it. It's very accessible for us, and people drive here, bike here, walk here. It's a perfect place. We don't want to lose it.
Thank you. Anita Ashland.
You can switch mine and register.
Oh, you're just
Yeah.
registering. Okay. Sorry, I'm not looking right. Joe Martin.
I don't think I need it. I use one of those things all the time. Hey everyone, I'm Joe Martin. I'm a proud Monona resident. I live on Falcon Circle. I've lived here in town for 16 years. I've got a daughter. She goes to MG and she is on the tennis team with Jessica's daughter. Oh, okay. Well, I'll use it. I am a lifelong tennis player, and I grew up doing lots of competition, playing leagues and tournaments, and competing at a high level. I started playing pickleball a little over 3 years ago. I'm now a certified professional instructor by the Professional Pickleball Registry, and this summer I won a gold medal playing in the Madtown Open, playing mixed doubles. So obviously I'm very passionate and competitive about the sport. I learned how to play pickleball participating in open play with people like the people in this room. In fact, many of the people in this room tonight is how I learned how to play the game and develop my passion for it. And I want to talk about this group, but I want to talk about the differences between tennis and pickleball briefly. They seem similar. They have the same surface and got a net and a ball, but pickleball is more accessible to all ages and abilities. It takes years to become a proficient tennis player, but pickleball allows beginners to compete pretty much right away. Pickleball has a greater social component. It's a smaller court. Closer play means more interaction. And pickleball is a much faster game. Playing a set of tennis takes 30 to 40 minutes. A pickleball game takes 5 to 10 minutes to play. So that's why open play is perfect for a facility like Winnequa Park Courts. That's why it's used at thousands of public courts around the country. Open play allows players of different ages and abilities to play and learn from each other. And rotation allows older players who are maybe less fit to catch their breath between games. Open play encourages meeting new people, so you don't need a partner or a group to learn and play. And because the games are so much shorter than tennis, dozens of people could play in a single hour as compared to a dedicated reserved court tennis time where 4 or 8 people would play. We all know that before COVID, our Winnequa Park Courts were underutilized. The great program for our juniors, my daughter learned from
Joe,
the
about
Parks
20
and Rec.
seconds. About 20 seconds left.
But it's not a place for league or competitive play for tennis players. But the pickleball people have really enlivened the space, and they're exactly what we need here in the city of Monona.
Thank you.
Chris Eyring. Chris?
Thank you. I just want to echo what you initially said and what was just said, that I think the open play for pickleball really does allow for a lot of community building. And similar to what you just mentioned, I also learned how to play pickleball here in Monona and have found it to be really exciting and a great way to meet people and to stay active. And I think the open use and the rotation system, the way it's been set up, really does allow for community. So I'd like to see that continue. I don't necessarily know if I agree with the fee for the retirees to have that, and because I think they open it up. It's public. It's a public court, and I realize you do fees for other things, but I guess personally I'm against charging that fee for that 2 hours in the morning because of the time of the day and the amount of people that they can surface through that. My final thing is I think it's very short-sighted if we don't sit down and look at how to build more courts, even though you want to postpone it 3 to 5 years. Maybe there's people that can have a committee, maybe we can raise funds, but I think it's here and it's growing, and other communities are really embracing it, like McFarland, Fitchburg. They have great courts, and they welcome us to play, but otherwise the most basic thing we can do is get new lights so that we can actually use those courts at night. It's better for the skateboard than it is pickleball. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Larry Schumacher.
Hi, Larry. Wrong Larry. I'm Larry too. I'm a Monona resident. I live on Midmore. I can get over to the pickleball courts in a hurry if I want to. I really haven't seen that there's been any shortage for places to go play pickleball. I know it's exploding, but there's new places and people to follow to different places. If pickleball leaves Monona, I want to have a place close to home to play. I just, I love playing there. It's, I don't know, it's a big part of my life. We don't necessarily know everybody's names, but we have a name for everybody that plays there. They're, all these people are so dear to us. It's you know, I feel kind of stupid saying it, but it's our life. So it's a good one.
Jen Kelly.
Hi, I'm Jen Kelly. I'm a resident of Monona, and I have 2 kids who are in the schools right now. And I love hearing about this big group that plays in the mornings. It is what I want to be when I am retired and I have that kind of time. Really, truly, I mean that. And I don't want this group to go anywhere because I think it's such a warm, welcoming part of our community. However, I just want some thought to be given to people who have different lifestyles. So, for instance, me, I may have an hour in between meetings, in between dropping off both my kids in 2 different places, and the other friends of mine are also working with very, very busy schedules. And so the fact that we feel like we can't catch up for large portions of the day, or what feels like large portions of the day, that we can't just come in and play with 4 other people for an hour, makes it harder for us to stick with the game and continue playing, which is what we really want to do. But I just want you to give some thought to people who are not retired, who are working, and who are raising children, and have much shorter blips of time in which they want to just play at their level and get it in and get home to the laundry. That's it.
Thank you.
Jen. Doug Colner? Doug?
Hi, I'm a resident of Monona for many years now, and I started playing on the courts here. I just wanted to talk about what a positive group it is. I know that Larry touched on that a little bit. You can't read an article about aging gracefully and doing the right thing to live a long, productive life without reading about getting exercise and having a good social scene. And this has it in spades. And really what the Parks Department should be doing is breaking their arm, patting themselves on the back for such a fantastic amount of play on such a small piece of property, and really with 0 overhead. You're not cutting grass over there. Hell, we pull our own weeds around the fence. But I just want to say, like Larry, that it's really become an important part of my life, both socially and from a health standpoint. And I just can't imagine blowing it apart because you need a few dollars. I just don't see what the dollars are necessary for. I hate to do this. Yes, I pay a lot of taxes. Everybody pays a lot of taxes. But, when I live in this community and there's open play on the public courts, that's what I'm going to do. But if it starts to be this formalized, it's a pickup game. It's like a basketball court where people just show up and play when they can, if they can. And I think part of the problem that I see is I don't recognize any one of these faces for coming down to the court and watching us play and watch what transpires there on a daily basis and watch the communication between people. We play games only to 9. That's how quick we try to shorten things up. We run people through, a normal pickleball game is 11 points. We play to 9 because we want to hustle things along. That pickleball saddle paddle thing is a way to keep it organized so everybody can get in and rotate through and have their opportunity to play, and we do not put up a wall to anybody who wants to come in and play, regardless of their skill levels. In fact, I've seen it happen many a time where someone will just take a new person aside over to an empty court and work with them, with some basics and fundamentals and some of the rules and so forth. Anyway, wonderful, welcoming group. Hate to see it torn apart. For I'm not sure what reason. It's a little Kafkaesque to me because it seems like we're guilty of something and we don't know what we were guilty of. And I think that if there's a misunderstanding, we always seem to get the information that a court is reserved. But if there's
just about a time.
Right, I just want to say that if there's a misunderstanding about what the rules might be on the courts, I think that we can do a better job of communicating, or the city can, to whoever the liaison for that information is.
Thank you.
Susan Ratcliffe?
I'm Susan Radcliffe, and I live in Monona. About 2.5 years ago, myself and 2 others began playing pickleball over at Winnequa as a release from COVID. We played.
Mic closer to your mouth, please.
Oh, Is this better? Okay. We started playing about 2.5 years ago as a relief from COVID. We played in the mornings, and before long, other players joined us for pickup games. Over the ensuing weeks and months, word spread throughout the area that pickleball was being played in Monona and that anyone who wanted to join us was indeed welcome. Well, it wasn't long before well over 150 players had at least given it a try. Some played regularly, some played occasionally. Because of the growing numbers of players, it was necessary to devise a system in which players rotate on and off the courts. This allows as many people as possible the chance to play as many games as possible. It's a simple system, but it works. This round-robin system within our drop-in or pickup play absolutely maximizes court space and use by accommodating anyone who wants to play. It was, in fact, developed to do exactly that. We are never at capacity, and no one is turned away. It is fair for everyone except those that want a court for themselves. So what do we do about those players that do not want to join in but want exclusive use of a court for an extended period of time? Well, the answer is simple. It's hard to believe that we're all here seeking a resolution when it seems so simple. May I suggest a designated time slot for open drop-in play in the mornings, say from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Then for those who wish to occupy a single court by themselves, they would have the remainder of the day or evenings, depending on daylight, to do so. In the summer, with 12 hours of sunlight, this would allow the drop-in players, the majority of the people who use the courts, 4 hours of court use, and the rest up to 8 hours per day. We do know that the courts are sometimes used for lessons, events, and can be privately reserved. We understand this and have always deferred. So I ask that Park and Rec and this board take into account the information presented here tonight and how important the game is to so many. A daily time slot for open play in Monona does work. That is precisely why it is so popular. We would hope that any new plan this board comes up with would be equitable and focus on serving as many people as possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Man, that was a perfect 3 minutes. Did you plan that?
Ryan Brown.
Check one. Hi, everybody. My name's Ryan Brown. I'm a citizen of Monona. I want to speak to the camaraderie here in Monona. I have not found a group like this anyplace else. I've played other states. I've played other courts. This is the most inclusive group that I've ever played with. It's neighborly and supportive. It's healthy and positive, both physically and mentally. I'm a nurse and a public health advocate. I want to speak to the opportunity of Monona Parks and Rec to promote the health and well-being of the people who utilize these courts. This is an opportunity to use the city resources to enhance the quality of life for all of those who live in a great city and surrounding areas, to support strong community values and improve livability. This is actually the mission statement of Monona Parks and Rec. I'm in full support of this mission, and I'd like to offer you my help. I also understand the restrictions of budgets. Funding new courts or aligning existing courts to create new playable space will incur a cost. I'm more than happy to put effort into fundraising if local access to courts will also improve. The City of Monona has a decision to make: work to limit the overall pickleball access or expand the amount of courts in Monona. I ask this of the Monona Parks and Rec Department: embrace pickleball.
Susan Schumacher registering against fees and changes, I believe. Susan, do you want to speak at all, or are you good? Okay. Casey Cronenfelder registering and Casey here? Just walked out. In favor of, sorry, eyesight. Having reservations for courts, consideration of additional courts. So Casey Kronfeld in favor of having reservations for courts, consideration of additional pickleball courts. David Smithson, Midwood.
Hi, my name is Dave Smithson. I've been a resident of Monona for 44 years. I kind of like it here, and I started playing pickleball down here when I was less with experience. The group welcomed me, made space for me, taught me a number of things. As my skills have progressed marginally, we've welcomed other people in. There have been many.
Hold it closer to your mouth.
There have been many who are graduates of your training, and we have assisted them, and the play slows down for newcomers. We don't tell them we do that, but we do slow it down because we want them to develop a positive attitude towards the game. We want them to come back. The style of play, well, first off, I want to amplify. There is no group. I'm one individual who comes to those courts because I can ride my bike to them and because I want to find a game, and I don't know people that I can call up every morning that I feel like playing. So it is a drop-in for people, individuals. There's no group, there's no organization. We have put organization onto the play. Others have said it also that it's done to maximize play. Generally, there's no sitting for more than 5 to 10 minutes. Groups who want to play could put their paddles together so they can go as a group, but they would be subject to the same kind of organization that we've developed to allow the maximum number of play. They would get one game, the same as everyone else. Then they would have to sit, put their paddles together. When there was a space for all four, they could bring themselves in. I also was a tennis player. I played drop-in tennis at Ahuska for the last 12 years. Time and injuries take their toll, and that group is diminishing. But I have been on the courts for 12 years. There's no shortage of tennis courts in Monona. I've never seen in playing tennis 3 days a week at Ahuska that there was any shortage of courts. They also did the same procedure that we do here in the pickleball, which is anybody's welcome. Come in and join the play. You play a game, we'll make sure if you win, you go up. If you lose, you go down, but you're always playing. The most number of people, and everyone's welcome. Just to take some of the one of the comments, this is the fastest growing sport in the United States today. It's not news. You've seen it coming for a couple of years.
We're getting right to the end. If you can wrap it up, thank you.
I like Monona. I want to keep playing there. I want to keep finding people to play. I don't want to have to drive 12 to 15 miles to find people who might want to play on the days that I do. I think the suggestion to keep it open for this type of play in the morning and give it to any open play, friends play, would be a good use time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, I hope no one thinks I'm being rude. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. So,
Casey Kronfeld.
All right, thanks for coming to me too. It takes a village. My 6-year-old's playing upstairs, so so I didn't register to speak, but I have the mic, so I will talk now. But I do just want to say I'm a resident of Monona. I live over on Winnequa. We've been here for almost 6 years now. I think one of the differences between me and many of the people in the room is I'm not retired. I don't have a flexible schedule. In fact, I work sometimes 60 to 80 hours a week. I have 3 children, all at Winnequa. So my ability to adapt to schedules is pretty difficult. It is also difficult to necessarily schedule with people. So I want to say I've essentially learned how to play pickleball here, thanks to many of the people in this room. And personally, I've never felt anything but welcomed. This group has been incredibly supportive of me individually coming to play. But I will admit it's in the context of playing the way that the system is built. And personally, I have a lot of challenges in schedule and ability to utilize the courts. If it were to say that we couldn't do anything with friends or family in those couple hours, it might mean I essentially almost never get to play because my kids have sports at night, they're in school. I've wanted to take my kids to the courts in the morning. Kids can't come in and play with this group. That's not feasible. I want to play with friends sometimes at different skill levels, and that's an opportunity that's not available because the courts are in use essentially every day of the week. And what I will say on top of that, though, is it is amazing. The pickleball community, the group of people that's come into Monona that this has built up, it is incredible, and I don't want anything to take away from that. But I do want this group to consider how people that maybe don't have the lifestyle or the flexibility that many people in the room have, that maybe want to play in a little bit different fashion sometimes, because I will admit I love being able to come in, have anybody, great skill levels to play with, it's awesome. But sometimes that's just not matching what some people need. And so how do we feasibly come up with some accommodations to be able to meet the needs of different generations, of different kind of desires to utilize the courts in a way that is equitable? I will second, I think treating pick up or drop in as a group with a fee is not the answer in any way, shape, or form, and is not an equitable way to approach this. So I personally would love to see some other discussions of, are there opportunities for residents to reserve periodically or certain, some days of the week or different things like that, just to open up the opportunities for people that want to play with their kids, want to play with their friends, maybe don't want to play with the exact system in place, which most of the time is fantastic and optimizes people's ability to use the courts, but just maybe isn't a match for everybody's desire to utilize the courts. And so I would just love to continue to see the discussion of how do we meet those varying needs while absolutely not alienating the incredible community that has been built here. So.
Mel Braverman. Mel?
Hi, I'm Mel Braverman. I live in Monona for 3 years now, actually. It's probably about this week that we moved in 3 years ago. When we moved into Monona, probably for the first year, I don't think I knew anybody other than my daughter and her family who live here and the ice cream guy at the bait shop. I mean, other than, and that went on for, I don't know, maybe the first year and a half until we discovered the pickleball courts and the folks at the pickleball courts welcoming us. And so that brought us into what you said is 150 people as personal friends now. And it's just hard at Christmas time, I'll admit. But other than that, it's been pretty nice and pretty welcoming. I'm wondering why at this time, when so many new public pickleball courts are opening without fees, is Monona considering a fee? It seems antiquated. It seems a little bit small for what we should be. We should be bigger and more open, not smaller and more contained. In this world today, that's what the world is. It's got to be bigger and open. Excuse me. Are there 8 tennis courts in Nanuska? I know. I just try to count them as I drive by, and I want to keep my eyes on the road. It seems like, well, you mentioned $400,000 or $500,000 for new courts. I'm sure resurfacing a couple of courts at Nanuska would be much more affordable. And also, by your own recognition of the growth of this sport, seems a fair thing to put on the table, not 3 to 5 years from now, but how do we make it happen now? As Susan and as some people have spoke to about how to make it happen without the fee structure. I don't understand where the problem is. Nobody's ever come to the courts that I've ever seen turned away. Nobody's ever asked to play that they weren't incorporated. And I think as some of Dave maybe said, some or lower skilled people come in and it does slow the game down. And for people who really want to play, sometimes you say, gee, I don't want to slow the game down. But because we are a community, we do that and we welcome people and we bring them up, and eventually their skills are able to meet the needs of the courts so that they don't feel funny playing with the rest of the group. Doug's dad plays. Doug's dad is, how old is your dad now, Doug? 92? And he paid for some of the improvements on the court. We're not just sitting there waiting for Monona to do everything. We're trying to do things that are in our ability to do, but obviously we don't have the resources that the city has. And I, like Doug has said about paying taxes, I pay taxes. When we pay taxes in Madison when we used to live, we didn't have to pay to go on the courts there. Why are we having to pay taxes in this town and to pay fees to go on the courts?
No, we're coming to the end here. If we can
Yeah. I understand why there's a fee at the pool. We're supporting kids having jobs and the upkeep is huge. The pickleball courts, you can't tell me that the upkeep is very expensive on those. And if you can name it, we might be able to meet it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Paul Charlier.
Paul?
Good evening. My name is Paul Charlier, Monona resident. Having spent many years in corporate America and HR, I know a lot about surveys and how to get answers that management wanted. That's why I, like many others here, were disappointed by the survey itself sent out by Monona Rec. The choice in the survey for future pickleball play at Monona Courts did not include the option to continue with an open play format, which we have today, and many people have talked about. Many people wrote, I'm sure, comments about that. The open play at Monona is unique around town, as many people have mentioned. Many other courts and parks require reservations or apps to schedule, fees for courts, or require people to organize their own groups to play, which can be difficult. Or players just show up hoping others might be there, but that doesn't happen and work very often. Kind of Dave was talking about that. Many of these scenarios create limits on the game. We truly have a community here of pickleball players in Monona. You've heard it already. The recreation department should be thrilled that the courts are filled with players every morning, even in winter. These folks were shoveling the courts in winter. I could not believe it. That's dedication. Having relocated back to Wisconsin after almost 40 years, I found this community of players by chance in my new hometown after the YMCA shut down play due to the pandemic. It has been a welcoming community. Players of all skills play here and are welcome, unlike some courts around town. Many people can talk about trying to play at some of the courts. As a recreation department, you should be excited to host all these dedicated players who are using our facilities. As a taxpayer, I'm happy about this. Creating onerous processes and fees should be counter to your mission of getting people to be active and recreating, especially the more mature crowd. Without this community, these courts will likely be empty and unused most mornings, as they were this morning when a bunch of us decided to play at McFarland. I purposely drove by about 10 o'clock and no one was here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Franz. Linda?
Thank you. Good evening, my name is Linda, and I'm, oh, okay. Not my thing. I moved to Monona 3 years ago with him. A year ago, we showed up on the Monona pickleball courts and were invited to play by the people playing pickleball that morning. Since then, I've played on and off for the past year and have always felt welcome there. The courts we play on are public courts for anyone to enjoy as far as we knew. The people that play in the mornings have no legal standing as an organization. There's no sign-up requirements, officials, or scorekeepers. People are making use of public courts open to everyone. Requiring a fee for people to play pickleball would mean stationing a guard at the gate to police the use of what is supposed to be a public court. This seems to me to be a great waste of time and resources. In addition, anyone who plays on any public court in Monona, including the tennis courts, should then be required to pay a fee. I don't believe you could legally discriminate by only charging people who play on the pickleball courts. A better use of time and resources would be how to figure out how to accommodate more pickleball players, as this is a growing sport everywhere. Some possible solutions: designate the courts next to the pool as pickleball-only courts, since there are designated courts for tennis at Anuska Park. Have a court available to reserve for a fee if you have a group that only wants to play exclusively with each other for a set period of time. Charge everyone who wants to play on any of Monona's public courts a reasonable yearly fee, such as $20, to maintain the courts, as has been done in some communities. Consider developing a plan to build more public pickleball courts, as a lot of people have said, as other surrounding communities in the area have done. We certainly have the available park space in Monona to do so. Thank you for your time.
Sally Ball is registering in favor of public use of pickleball courts and not charging for use. Sally, did you want to speak, or you good with that? Sally Loft, okay. Kathy Dustin, Cottage Grove.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Dustin. I live at 3728 Oakwood Drive in Cottage Grove. I'm a little bit unique because I drive 6 miles in. My taxes are given to my township, but they're also paying the Monona Grove Public Schools. Pickleball is an intergenerational activity for people of various skill levels. I play indoors at Princeton Club, Hitters, Sun Prairie Athletic Club, Turner's on Stoughton Road. I also regularly play at Garner Park on the west side, the new courts in McFarland, McGaw Park in Fitchburg, Monona, which I truly enjoy, and Stoughton on the public courts. Since 2016, when I started, I have donated for balls wherever I play, including Monona. Why am I mentioning this? Because I'm not sure why pickleball play on the public courts is being singled out tonight. The rec department has accepted the donations for nets, windscreens, clocks, the paddle saddles, benches, and ball holders. It's come from generous people in the community enjoying healthy recreation on the public courts for all the citizens to enjoy of Monona and the greater Dane County. So this evening, I think consideration for expanded courts at Ahuska Park should be discussed. And I also think that open play for pickleball should be designated for the morning hours on the community center tennis courts into the future. And the last shout out I'd like to give is respect to Sandy Bernhardt as a stellar volunteer that any community should be happy to have. Thank you.
Michael Bosch, Atwood Ave.
Thank you. I live Michael Bausch is my name. I live right on the border of Madison and Monona near the East Side Club. So I'd like to be considered a Monona resident. And we do support the community financially in many different ways. I am a tennis player, and I would never play tennis at the Winnequa. I always go to Ahuska or Door Creek or a number of other courts around, but I do want to play pickleball here in Monona at Winnequa. I've been playing pickleball for 16 years, and I'm not as good as some people who are playing 16 months, but it's still a lifelong sport. I've played in a number of communities in Wisconsin and have never run into any friction with any of the parks departments until now. Every community I've been in has encouraged pickleball and has given the citizens the responsibility of organizing as they see fit to accommodate the growing interest in the sport. Communities are wise to encourage the sport, and I hear that from this Parks and Rec Committee. It brings people together, as so many have said, in a little exercise, fun, skill building, and competition. And something else happens, which has also been mentioned by other people today. There's a recent Harvard Business School study that gave it a name, and it's called relational diversity. That's when people meet new people, strangers. And pickleball is perfect for that when we compete together, chat together, socialize together, support each other in our lives, and offer even emotional care as needed. Pickleball brings positivity, and it brings happiness and a sense of well-being. All of that, I think, creates rippling effects throughout a community. All that we have experienced ripples out into the community of Monona, so that others can sense our health, our emotional well-being, and our happiness. I hope that you will choose to not to discourage or to penalize us, but to help us grow in this life-affirming sport.
Dalton Kniezel, sorry if I get the name wrong, Dalton.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Zoe, and as Missy and Jennifer know, I'm the winner of the inaugural tournament champion. So I'm a resident of Madison. We just moved back to the region from New York City, and subsequently we don't have a car. So I had heard about this sport of pickleball, and I went to Tenney Park, and some of the players here were playing at Tenney because they actually could not use the Winnequa Park courts. And so I started playing July of this year, and the players here have been nothing but welcoming and generous and supportive to a new player like myself, regardless of my age or ability. And really, at first, I was quite bad. I just want to say that since these players came back to Winnequa, I've been biking from Morrison Street in Madison almost every morning. 4.5 miles over, 4.5 miles back. It's about 30 minutes each way. And I am now gainfully employed and hope to continue to play with this group every morning. Even though I do have a tight schedule, I do hear what some of the players are saying about reserving one court, but I would just like to say that as a new player with no experience before playing with some of these players here tonight, I was welcomed. I was never disparaged for my level of play, and I was warmly welcomed into the group. So thank you, and I hope we can keep partnering with the City of Monona, Parks and Rec, to keep these courts open and available for play for all.
Gloria Prosa, registering against any changes for pickleball play at Winnequa. Kathy Petty registering against what I'm assuming is any changes in current play. Sherry Peterson, do you want to speak? Yes. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sherry Peterson. I don't do this. This is out of my comfort zone, but pickleball is very important. Pickleball is played with 2 to 4 players, just like tennis, but majority of the people play doubles. People that want to play just show up. No sign up, no contracts, no fees. Just show up. Any given day there are 20 to 50 people that play in the mornings. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join in the rotation and play. If people are already on the courts, we don't make them leave since we don't have the courts reserved. It's a first come, first serve, as is everything else within the park. Several times this summer, I had my own group of 4. We didn't want to rotate in and out. We either played after 10:30 at Monona or we played somewhere else. Several times we played here late mornings or in the afternoons. A few of the morning people still were playing, but 3 courts were open. We did run into several kids misusing the courts, riding a skateboard, kicking a soccer ball, and even sitting on the nets. Why would you start charging to use the public courts when people are already paying taxes to support the courts? Where do you draw the line? Are you going to charge an in-home daycare provider who uses the playground on a regular basis? How about people who meet at the skateboard park on a regular schedule? Have any of you guys even played pickleball? Come out and give it a try. I challenge you to play and see if you like the sport. After all, it is the fastest growing sport in the country.
Larry Schmeiser, Winona Way, or Openwood Way, Madison.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you about this. I am an 80-year-old retired attorney. My main activity now is full-time care partner for my wife who has dementia. The pandemic has been a severe challenge for us to maintain physical and social activities after March 2020. In June 2020, a couple of pickleball friends told me about playing outdoors at the Monona tennis courts. I have been playing here ever since, including shoveling snow through 2 Wisconsin winters. We have a great collection of mostly older people who have made this experience one of the best adjustments to pandemic chaos over the last 2.5 years. We are just a collection of people who like to play pickleball outdoors without any structure or formal organization. There is no one empowered to enter any binding agreements. The rec department will need to sign up an agreement with each player or have an alternate arrangement. The whole proposal made me curious about what kind of group we are. So I did some research on group dynamics. I found the sociologists say we are a spontaneous social network of like-minded peers formed around a common interest. The obvious interest is pickleball, of course, but there are other factors binding us together. I have observed that we are mostly the people who were never late for work. Many of us work 60 hours a week, maybe some more, and most of us have stable families, long-term relationships. We pay attention to our health and fitness even as we age. 2 of our regular players are over 90. About 6 of us are in our 80s. And I would guess the median age is 70 plus or minus 2. If your goal is to promote and encourage senior health and fitness in your community, there is no better way than to support pickleball, our pickleball play at Monona. Finally, I would encourage you to remember that the simplest solution is often the best solution. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you.
Janine, Willard Ave, Madison. Come back.
Hello, I'm Janine Ramsey. I would classify myself as an advanced beginner. So I guess one of the things that comes to mind, first of all, people said great things, and I really appreciate it. I don't want to try to repeat what people have said, but I am trying to understand the problem. Now, I heard only 2 individuals talk about having really tight schedules and maybe not being able to come and play with their kids. And, you know, I'm thinking, well, would open afternoons satisfy that? Would every day open afternoons be okay with that? I like the idea that Susan raised of having, let's have it be open every morning until maybe 11:30 or something like that, and then have it open all afternoon. I think that sounds like a really good solution. And then, by the way, people with kids, people have come with kids, and they have even rotated their kids in, which has been kind of fun. So I guess one of the other things I want to talk about is open play is not just people just show up and play. It's also, I am a late riser, so I tend to get there later. And, you know, I got there later initially because I was a beginning player, and so you get all the advanced people are tired. And so they're tired enough so that I don't, you know, I can play up against them. And then so it's not just people show up, but people show up starting at 7:30, and then people are leaving and coming and going all the way till, you know, 11 or 11:30. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And then I did want to compare it to the pool, like some other people where, you know, I mean, you have at the pool, you're having lifeguards, you have chemicals, you have to watch the water. You have all these things that are expenses that make sense about why you would need a fee. With pickleball, it's harder to see. Now, I do understand that the sand, and it's a careful resurfacing or whatever on there, and it sounds like $67,000 was the fee that you had for that resurfacing, and that was maybe 5 years ago. So, I mean, I know that there is that fee, but what else burdens you about our pickleball play? I mean, is there a difference in cost between if the courts just sat there empty versus having us running around hitting the wiffle ball? I mean, you know. So I guess I would want to know that. And then finally about the survey, I'd like to echo what somebody else said, and that's that when I've done surveys in my background as a school librarian working at a high school, and I always made sure to kind of get input from everybody prior to sending out a survey.
Janine, we're coming up on time.
Okay. Are these the questions that we want? Are there any other questions? So I would have had other questions on that survey. I would have included questions from this group, for example. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for having the pickleball option, because it's been great for me and my husband. Thanks.
Thank you.
Arlene Pearson, Baldwin Street, Madison.
This is the problem when you don't speak first. Everybody says everything that you so carefully wrote up, right? So here I am crossing everything out and all of that. And I think people have really made wonderful points, but I guess I just want to underline a few things. I don't understand why there's a problem. Tennis is different than pickleball, and we can accommodate both. I really don't see why this is a problem, okay? You know, as people have spoken, you could accommodate so many people within a course of 3 hours. I mean, 40 people, just rotating in, rotating out. It's amazing how many people in that period of time. When people start at different times and they stay for different lengths of time. Not everybody stays 3 hours. I work. Not everybody's retired. And people that are retired caretake. They have other jobs and other things they are doing. I mean, so it's just really a misnomer to think, oh, we can just do anything. And, hey, I raise kids and I would take them to play tennis. I'm a tennis player myself. You start to learn what you do. What do you do when you play tennis? Okay, so you and your kids or whatever, you go to a tennis court. It's filled. What do? You drive to the next one. Or you ride your bikes to the next one. So if Tenney is filled, I go to Maple Bluff. If Maple Bluff is filled, I go to East High School. If that's filled, I might come to Monona. That's we've been doing it for years, right, tennis players? That's just what you do. That's just what you do. And then, of course, you also, too, begin to realize, oh, I'm not going to go over there at that time because I know they have lessons or whatever, okay? Really, I mean, we're just talking about a period of time in the morning, drop in. You can accommodate it, and you can have plenty of hours for tennis, so I don't just really see the problem. I climb at boulders. My daughter grew up there. She's an incredible, mountain climber. So, I'm trying to stay in shape and all of that. I don't go there at 5 o'clock at night because it's so crowded because all the kids come. I love them. It reminds me of my kids when they were climbing there and they were on the club there. But I don't go there then. And, it's people also, too, work different shifts. It's not as if, I just don't like the stereotypes. We're all just these old folks that just do whatever, and, oh, everybody else has got such a pressing schedule. I mean, you'd be surprised at the kind of commitments that many, many people here that play pickleball have, whether it's paid or non-paid. Okay, so I guess I don't see that we have a problem, except that we do need to, what other people have said, really think about the future and the fact that things are expanding. And hats off to Sandy. And she only sends emails out to tell us, is it safe? Is it wet? Is it icy? Or are there scheduled lessons? That's the other thing, too. I think we're respectful to every scheduled stuff you have going on.
Kathy Zupan? Kathy?
Hello, I'm Kathy Zupan. I recognize a few people in the room because I lived in Monona, raised my family here for 20-some years. I have a little testimonial. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I retired in June of 2021. I learned from a family member that there was open pickleball play in Monona. So I went to the Winnequa courts, not the most outgoing person in the world, but I went to the Winnequa courts and I watched people play in order to learn. And I talked to various people, including Doug, and I said, I don't know if you know Ed Kollner, and he said, oh yeah, he's my dad. Anyway, so I was encouraged to borrow a paddle and to show up and play, which is what I did. I asked if I played as a beginner and was told, these are public courts, anyone can play. I was encouraged to keep playing in order to get better. Hopefully I have. I have found great benefits physically, emotionally, and socially. As a senior who is a widow, it is vital for me to have interactions and camaraderie with others, and I found that in playing pickleball. Thank you to the City of Monona for affording the opportunity to many individuals, young and old alike. I would like to see the city embrace a policy of open play for all, unless a court is reserved, no fees. Again, thank you for considering my input. This is a wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sam Breidenbach, Madison.
Just stand over here.
This is the center of the universe. So, hi, I'm Sam Breidenbach. I am an abject beginner when it comes to pickleball. I took some lessons from a guy by the name of Dave last year, and then I had an injury with my elbow. So I really sat out the, really the winter. And then I came back,
and started playing, and it just felt so welcoming. You know, the camaraderie, all the advice from everyone, solicited or unsolicited, was really endearing. And you know, I just felt like I was all of a sudden part of this new family. And I'm from Madison. And by the way, anytime you go to Madison, our courts are wide open for everyone. So I really appreciate the welcoming nature of Monona. And you know, oftentimes my wife and I will ride our bikes to the courts, and you know, we'll stop at the Crema Cafe, as I'm sure a lot of people, you know, fill up their cars at Monona gas stations and, you know, buy stuff at Fraboni's. And so I think it would be a real travesty if the city somehow, you know, drove a really vibrant group like this away just for the sake of, you know, getting some extra revenue for the parks. I think there is a better way. I'm sure you guys can come up with a solution for, you know, if there are revenue shortfalls, but by all means, don't ruin a good thing. It's a vibrant spirit, it's a vibrant community, and it benefits everyone in the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Ted Groges? Sorry, Ted Fitchburg? Oh.
Bad handwriting. Yeah, I live in Fitchburg. I live so far north in Fitchburg. Fitchburg doesn't believe that I live in Fitchburg.
Hopefully they do that when it's time to pay taxes.
Yeah, I have to drag that out a lot and show them, you know, that I actually do live in Fitchburg, which came up with some public courts, dedicated pickleball courts, I think, like last year. Kind of lacks the community that Monona does. I mean, I love Monona, you know, love the beer garden thing going on, the radio station. You know, I mean, I aspire to live in Monona, but it probably take a while yet. So, you know, this group, I don't play a lot. We get together, you know, I go see Kathy, it'll be like, where you been playing lately? You know, and we'll rattle off various things, but I haven't been playing much this year because my knees are going. So, you know, I realize there's probably two things going on. Monona needs some money. You know, you took on San Damiano. That's a great acquisition. But now you got to come up with cash wherever you can. And the other thing is there are probably folks in Monona that kind of resent other people coming in and playing on their courts. But that's true of any community around the lake. You know, people are going to come to wherever there's something going on and take advantage of it. So I don't know how you figure that out. You know, if you price it high enough, I'll probably just go someplace else. This is basically, you know, 3 people devoted to keeping, in one in particular, keeping an email chain going so that people know that it's there. Monona is great in that you always know there can be a game. You don't have to try and organize people and call people back, or you don't have to go on an app and do that. Oregon's somewhat similar. They're going to crank out some new courts. I kicked in some money for that. I'd be happy to make a free will donation to help more get painted at Ahuska if you need more pickleball courts. Relieve some of that pressure for people that want to have a place to play that don't want to run into the geezers over at Winnequa. And, you know, and also today I played at McFarland, stopped at the Pick and Save there, the Ace Hardware store, looked at a topper. Same thing happens when I come over here. You know, last gentleman mentioned the economic ripple that goes on. So yeah, I've been to Schwenn's, you know, Salvatore's, all sorts of stuff in Monona that I wouldn't normally do if there wasn't a pickleball game to come here. You know, that the capital floats and the group will float if need be, I'm sure. So don't cut yourself off.
Thank you.
Sandy Bernhardt.
First of all, thank you, Kathy. That was very kind. I didn't write anything down, and I think everything has pretty much been said. Number one is, if it's not broken, why are we fixing it? What is the problem? Here. Okay. I will say that when Jessica contacted me to come and talk about court usage, I was pretty surprised at what we did talk about. I've been kind of for those of you that don't know, I've been a liaison with Jessica. Why is that doing that? I don't know. And we have a great relationship. And in hindsight, if somebody would have said to me, we think we have a problem, I would have said, what? Let's talk about it. And I mean the whole committee. Instead of, I was given a proposal, and we mostly discussed talking about ways to collect the money as opposed to a solution, which to a problem that I didn't know existed. We've never really seen tennis players come and ask to play, and they can't. I don't remember that ever happening in 2.5 years. So I think that's not an issue. I understand, with due respect to the people that want to just play with their own four, but is that really a lot of people compared to this representation and what you just heard? I don't think so. And I also want to make a correction to the board. We don't charge people. We call it a voluntary donation to buy the balls and the clock and those kind of things. So if you don't want to pay it, don't pay it. There's balls there, and everybody is welcome. So I asked the committee, if you think there's something to work out, I contacted Kappa, and they said they don't have a relationship, a committee with you to discuss this. And I said, no, not really, and that might be a start. Doesn't have to be me, it can be a sampling of the people here, but I don't think it should change because it's going to affect a lot of people in not a good way. So please listen to what you've heard tonight. And I have probably 50 emails at home from people that aren't here. If you want to read those, you probably don't. There's no problem. I don't know what the problem is. So please listen to what everybody has said tonight.
So with that, is there anyone else that didn't get a chance to register that wants to speak still?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah. Good evening. Scott Seymour, and I live here in Monona with my wife. We moved here 8 years ago, and we live literally probably 2 blocks away from the pickleball courts. And during the last, I'd say 6 years, that was my main route to work, to the grocery store, to run errands, etc. And so I have observed that court for a long time, and it has been largely vacant over those years until this group started playing. And my wife, I think in maybe May or June, she decided to get up the courage to go down and try playing pickleball. And she said, it's a hoot, these people are great. They're welcoming, even though we don't know how to play pickleball, they'll teach us. And after a couple of weeks, she convinced me to give it a try. So, very open, inclusive group, as has already been stated here tonight. And I just wanted to mention that it would really be a shame if we went back to driving by these courts and looking at those courts vacant most of the time, because I think if the city places undue restrictions on this pickleball group, that's exactly what's going to happen. The other thing I want to say is I just want to emphasize the social aspect, which some people have already touched on. And if you read about mental deficiencies as people age, and I've got the gray hair to prove that I'm in that direction. I also was a high school and college wrestler, not the most social sport in the world. In fact, you're trying to subdue your opponent. So this part of this game, the social aspect of this game, cannot be underestimated. And everything you read is that it's really, really important as you age to have a social network. That's exactly what this group is. And if you place restrictions that push people away from that aspect, which really city government ought to be encouraging, is going to go away as well. So, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Christy Goforth. I live on Gordon Avenue in Monona. I was not planning on speaking tonight. I came to listen, but you've all inspired me. And I'm a new pickleball player, and I'm also hooked. So just wanted to say, the few times I've come down to the court, people have made space for me and let me loop in, and it's been fantastic. This is obviously the ultimate example of community, and what a fabulous low-impact sport this is on our assets, like our tennis courts and pickleball courts. Obviously, there's a lot of passion around this. There's a lot of economic impact on the community, and what this is actually called is local tourism. And we have a tourism fund in Monona that is funded by room tax dollars, and it's replenished every spring. So people come stay in our hotels. They pay, I think it's about 8% tax, and that goes into a local tax fund. It's a tourism fund, and people can apply for those funds for events or other things that generate more economic impact in Monona. So right now there's $100,000 sitting in that fund, not being used. I hate to throw that out there, you guys now, but it might be worth a conversation with the tourism fund, because obviously the sport is growing. We have the space for more courts. We could put in more courts, and there's $100,000 that maybe could go toward it. So.
Hello, I'm Donna Campanelli. I'm obviously one of the 5 that everybody doesn't know why. We would at least like to keep reserve courts for us. If I'm willing to pay for $10 2 hours of the court to play. Will that be every day? No. Will that be every day, every week? No. I agree. You guys brought pickleball into my world, and I started playing with you all. And it's been great. It's been awesome. And I know that everybody has different lifestyles. Everybody has things going on. I'm taking care of my dad who has dementia, and I'm 40-something years old. Everybody has things going on, and I'm just willing, is there a way that you guys are also willing to play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon instead of in the morning? Or in the evenings instead of the morning, and flip-flop. Not every day, not every morning, just here and there. I will reserve a court myself. Can we just play from 8 to 10, and we're out of there, we're done. I've done that before, and that was not looked upon nicely. And so that's what we're all here for one reason. It's pickleball for one that brought us all together. And City of Monona and Parks and Rec, they've been great to my family. They've been, I don't know, I think, don't want to get emotional about it, but a lot of negativity is what I've been seeing with this whole thing, and bashing, and life's too short for all of that. So anyways, I'm rambling now, but that's my point of view. I love all of you guys. You guys are awesome. Unfortunately, it's getting ugly, and that's all.
Okay,
here we go. So anyways, my point of view is that I don't want reservations to be not allowed. I think it should be allowed. I don't want you guys to pay. If I want a court to myself with 4 people, I pay. And I feel like that should be okay But does it have to be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or can it be at 7 o'clock in the morning? I mean, and so that's why timeframes, I think, are nice. Everybody's probably going to judge about my speech, but I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. So, anyway.
Thank you. Is there any other registrants? Good.
Somebody else had their hand up.
Is there someone else that would like to speak?
Anyone else?
Okay.
All right.
We're not just. We're not going to get into a Q&A tonight because it's 8 o'clock. At our December meeting, we will certainly have all that information available and have that conversation. What I can share is we met with every representative of every community that has pickleball and tennis courts. We have all the documentation on the communities that have policies that have, and it goes from no policy to very strict policies on who can play at what times. And so that'll all be part of our December 13th Parks Board meeting in the packet. And part of this tonight is just one step in the process so we can listen, we can hear. We have continued to work with our colleagues across the county and ask them what's working with their policies that they have, what's not, what would they change, etc., to try to look at something that we can develop and share with this Parks Board. And then this committee's responsibility is to take all the input and feedback that they have, ask questions, and maybe have revisions to that draft policy. From there, it's a motion to the council, if there is any potential fees, memberships, etc., codify the ordinance, and then that will be another 2 meetings at the council, city council. So there's multiple opportunities to still provide feedback and input. We anticipate having that information out. Typically, our packets would be available the Thursday or Friday before the next scheduled meeting.
And I would just like to add that I would encourage you to attend those meetings and to continue to email the council, to continue to email the city regarding your concerns about pickleball, because it's important that we hear what you're thinking. And before we move on, I just wanted to say that some of the words that I heard tonight that I really appreciate are inclusive, community, life-changing, health and well-being, improved livability, open play, welcoming, emotional well-being, and happiness. Those are impactful words, and I think that all of us are going to walk away from this meeting with a lot of things to think about, and I thank you for offering those comments.
Come over and play for an hour or two.
I'm gonna, as long as somebody shows me how.
Yes. one of those 3.
Yes. City's website, so it'll be on the, if you look at the calendar, like go to My Monona, you'll see it on the calendar, the meeting schedules, and then there's an option to download the agenda for those meetings. And the agenda usually has the packet information in there as well.
Okay, so that's for the December meeting, all
Yep.
the information will be available.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What's that? Okay. And with that, I think one more question.
I have a question.
Yes.
So currently, if somebody wanted to use the court and pay a fee, is there nothing set up currently for that type of thing?
Judy?
Not unless it's an organization.
Not unless it's what? An organization.
Yep. Yes. And with that being 10 after 8 at this point, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor? And we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.